Alrighty, you guys, what's up? We're back for another tier list, and as we've mentioned in the past couple ones, we are somewhat starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as lists that are available on the tier maker website, at least as far as like Twisted-Wonderlands go, without getting too repetitive into the thing. So just kind of disclaimer on that part as we explore a couple more tier list options for different games or stuff. But if we continue with the Twisted-Wonderland ones, we'll have ones that just include most of the characters, as far as like the school characters, event characters, and then other characters from like vignette stories. So like this one has a decent mix. We don't have everyone that I can immediately recall, but we got a good mix. We obviously have all the Night Raven College students. We have the teachers. We have some of the RSA students as well. We have got them out of order. Sorry about that. Yeah. Anyway, we have the Royal Sword Academy students in Chenya and Nage. We have some of the extended family and story characters from throughout books 1 through 7, and we do also have the event characters and then just remaining family characters that we see through some of the events as well, near closer to the bottom. So we have a decent mix to go through, and for this one we will be doing a trust tier list. Was kind of one of the more interesting ones I found as I was looking to find a new one to do of these. So the categories were a little kind of not to how I would want to word them, so I did switch up the tier list, just the categorization, then of course the coloring of the categories just to do it more cohesively. So at the top in green, we have Would Trust With My Life. Underneath with a slightly more greenish yellow, we have Would Trust But Not With My Life. So we have more in the sense of like trusting them to keep a secret or something, you know. In the middle, we have Unsure, kind of more that kind of like yellowish caution color. And in red, we have Wouldn't Trust. So let's go ahead and right before we get started, actually, just in line with what I was saying earlier about running out of tier lists for Twisted-Wonderland. So we'll do kind of these random ones that have most, if not all, the characters as far as we can find. And if there's any specific lists you want us to make, go ahead and chime in with those. We're pretty open to doing just about anything. Before landing on this one, I was pretty much debating doing an ABO one. So for anyone who doesn't know, that's Omegaverse stuff. So if we do end up going with that next, it would basically be how we would categorize them as far as alpha, beta, omega, and whatnot. So that'll probably be another one that we'll do, especially as we come closer to Halloween. Then we for sure want to do something for the Halloween outfits when it comes closer to that time as well. So kind of just spitballing as far as ideas are concerned, but if there's any specific categories of tier lists you might want to be made and featured, definitely feel free to chime in with those. But anyway, let's get started. So as always, we're going in dorm order and in order of seniority within that dorm. So we are starting with Riddle. Probably wouldn't trust him with a secret as far as the strictness of Riddle, but would definitely trust him to have my back if I was in danger. Trey, he's definitely in the top 2 for sure. Yeah. He kind of protects the other students while Riddle is overblotting and whatnot. So I do feel that's a safe assumption there. Cater is shown to not necessarily be like combat ready per se. We don't see him much in combat outside of kind of like with his split card trick and whatnot. So we'll put him in trust, but more along the lines of with the secret. Ace, he'd rat you out I feel like he'd rat you out if it benefited him, but he wouldn't want to. So we'll And we'll put unsure for now. We'll split them up later. Deuce. Definitely more of a combat-ready individual, so we'll put him up here for now. Leona. Yes. If need be. Obviously, you know, like, he's kind of like a last resort just due to his general not wanting to get involved in things and whatnot, but I feel like he's definitely someone you could trust to defend you. Ruggy, okay. You would be able to buy him off. How much you would have to pay is unsure. It's not to say I don't trust him, but the trust would definitely so far as go in the sense of if it's not immediate danger, it would be more so in the sense of like trust him to have my back in something, but it wouldn't necessarily be like at risk of danger. So I'll put would trust but not with my life. Jack, definitely trust. Ooh, Azul. Okay, so there's two lines of thinking here for pretty much all three of the Octavanel boys. Azul, objectively, you wouldn't want to trust just by virtue of what he does with all his contracts and stuff. But on the flip side of that, we do have that he would respect the terms of his contract, and if you are able to, I don't know if to say outsmart him exactly, just because I assume that would be pretty difficult to manage and pull off. But if you can make that happen, I would definitely put in would trust. Jaden Floyd. Oh, okay, that's... We'll put them in unsure for now, just because by virtue of who they are as individuals, they're a little harder to pin down. The Octavanel trio for sure. Azul, within the lines of his contract and negotiation stuff, he'll respect the deal that's made. Kaleem, not necessarily an individual that's shown to be immediately combat ready. He would most likely... Oh, I don't know if he'd be able to keep a secret. Yeah. I feel like if you trust him with a secret, depending on what it is, obviously depending on what kind of secret, you might not choose to trust him anyway, but I feel like he'd get excited and he'd probably end up, you know, like, telling that secret to whatever it is. Jamil. I feel like I would trust Jamil. Vil? Yeah. No. Yeah. Rook, absolutely as well. Trust with my life. He's a tracker. If you win his friendship and whatever, he would go to the ends of the earth for you, I feel. So I feel that's who he is as a person. Apple we know to be basically like down for a fight whenever. But at the same, well, I mean, he's definitely capable. He's in the Spell Draft Club. He's shown to be, you know, like an individual of good mettle and good worth and whatnot. So I feel like you would be able to trust him. I don't know that I would actively trust Apple with a secret per se, but I feel like there's people that I feel are more capable of defending life-wise than Apple. Idia, definitely not a combat-ready individual. He's a gamer. He's a bit of a recluse. He keeps to himself. I feel like I'd be able to trust him in that regard. Ortho, he doesn't keep to himself as much as Idia does, and he's known at times shown to be a bit of a hothead, ready to drop, you know, like an effective nuke / cannon blast at times. So I feel like that I would trust those defensive capabilities of his. Malleus, full trust there. Lilia, he's capable and playful, but I feel like he probably If he tells a secret, it'd be same as Kaleem, like more accidentally rather than like maliciously. But I feel like I would trust Lilia to defend me if it came to it for some reason. I don't know why I would, but you know, for the sake of these arguments, we'll count them as being like on good enough terms with me that I feel like if need be, they would definitely jump in. We're rolling off that, and then also just kind of vibes in general, especially for some of the. All these characters have names. I don't remember all of them. The only one, and to be fair, I only don't remember two as far as I can tell right now. And maybe three. I don't think I remember the name of Jamil's sister offhand. But anyway, carrying on with Diasomnia Silver. He would both keep your secrets and defend you with his life, I feel. Or defend your life. Sebek, a little more on the fence about him. I trust his strength and like combat capabilities. He's loud, but I feel like he doesn't really gossip per se, so I feel like I would trust him, but for now we'll dump him in unsure. Grim, kind of similar thought process as Ruggy. He's his not trust, not like his trust, but you would win him over via a bribe. I feel more is the more likely scenario there. So if you can pay him in enough tuna, you could theoretically get him into the top column. But in the sense of how he is, you could argue he's mostly selfish for the most part. Kind of self-centered and selfish for the most part, I would argue. So I'd be most likely to lean unsure or wouldn't trust, but we'll put him in the wouldn't trust for now. Crowley, or Crowley as I'm more want to say. I'm not, I don't know, just saying Crowley kind of throws me off. I get the whole Crowley and Raven imagery that is his thing as a character, but I prefer going with Crowley just because, you know, Supernatural and, you know, Aleister Crowley and all that. I'm more used to saying Crowley than I am Crowley. So, but he's canonically he's shown to be strong. No, obviously he would have to be if he's kind of like the head mage of Night Raven. So all the staff are like meant to be capable individuals, but at the same time he does always pin off like the emergency situations on everybody else. So just for that alone, I would put into either wouldn't trust or would trust, but not with my life. But for now, we'll just put him in wouldn't trust. Train. We don't really see much of his combat ability, at least not that I can immediately recall. But I feel like he would be. He's definitely trustworthy. I wouldn't doubt that. But I don't. Again, just by virtue of him having to be a teacher at Night Raven, they're all, to some extent, obviously very capable individuals. They have, you know, everything that it's good enough to be able to teach at a magic school and deal with all of these guys. So that enough is more than enough to put my trust in them, except for you. But no, the other four teachers and, well, he's not a teacher, he's more of a staff, but the other four primary members of staff at Night Raven, I would be more willing to trust. Cruel, yeah, he's full trust with life, just by virtue of how he sees all the students as his pups. To quote his words, he would same ideology kind of as Rook. He would kind of go to the ends of the earth to make sure that they're, again, to kind of Cruel's words, taken care of and protected and cared for and whatnot. Vargas, good enough to be a teacher for sure. He's got the strength aspect covered, so I would trust him with my life. He seems to be a bit of... We don't see his intellect used much, but again, his whole shtick is very much a bronze over brain type of character. But again, pretty much all the Night Raven stuff is going into full trust. Sam, kind of same thinking as Azul, and Sam is based on Dr. Facilier from Princess and the Frog. I haven't seen that, so I can't go really based off much of Dr. Facilier as a character, but same rationale as Azul. He respects the sale and the deal that is made when you do something with him. So I feel like you would be able to trust him with your life. Chenya, ooh, okay. He's very much the... Well, he is meant to be the Cheshire Cat. I believe he's like his, great-grandson or something along those lines. Very far down the line as far as things are kind of concerned with this stuff, but... As far as these things are concerned, I would trust... We don't know his combat capabilities. We know he's kind of more geared towards espionage and whatnot. So I feel like I would trust him, but not with my life. I feel like he'd be good enough to keep a secret with. Nage, mostly unsure. Most likely wouldn't trust. He's a little too... As the Snow White variant for Twisted-Wonderland, I feel like he's a little too happy-go-lucky for my liking. He would most likely be trustworthy, but as a natural skeptic and kind of more realistic and cynical type of person that I am, I would be more inclined to not trust. More likely, he might be changed to unsure, but for now, before we change up anything, once all these guys are categorized, we'll put in wouldn't trust. I forgot his exact name. I know he's we see him in some of the events, so we see him in the Cloud Calling on the Savannah. I feel like we maybe see him in Book 2, just because we see Cheka in Book 2 as well. But he... Is it Nigel? I think it might be Nigel. Something like that. I don't know why I'm thinking Nigel. That could be right. I don't recall his name 100%, but he is basically the Zazu of Twisted-Wonderland. And as we know from the things of the Lion King, Zazu is basically the... I don't know if to say assistant, per se, but he's kind of like the go-between for Mufasa and his subjects and stuff like that. So I feel like he'd be pretty trustworthy. He's strong enough to have dealt with Leona and whatnot, so you could probably trust him with your life, but I feel like for now I'll just put him into would trust, but not with my life. Most likely, again, this category is being used more as you would trust him with like a secret or something. Cheka, we know nothing about his combat abilities. We know that he is the son of Prince Falena, which makes him Falena, or Falena, how the fuck you say his name. He is Leona's nephew. He is very young. We don't know how strong he is or anything like that. It would stand to reason that he's going to be pretty strong just by virtue of him being like the son of the king, and he's all that stuff. He'd probably train with the guards and stuff like that, so he'd probably be strong. But going off what we know about him right now, and just in general, who I am as a person, no, would not trust Cheka. He's one of the guards from Book 7. I think you see his name, but I don't recall. So we're just going based off the image. If I remember right, he's like the general or something for the Human Kingdom when they're at war with with Briar Valley when they go into Book 7 and when they're in Lilia's dream. I don't quite recall. I'm sure they say his name just because he's like meant to be a prominent character, but I don't remember his name. But just based off that kind of off the image we have and that kind of of that fuck ass smile, he seems shifty, so we wouldn't trust. Malianor, who we have to be Malleus's mom. Queen of Briar Valley, objectively short of Malleus and potentially Crowley and Grimm, I guess. Potentially you, depending on how you choose to think of you as a character, but objectively she is meant to be most likely one of the most powerful characters that exist in the game, so we will have her I would trust with my life. The Dawn Armor, the Dawn Knight, who, no, for the sake of spoilers, we'll skip the reveal, but we'll just say that he is a part of the whole Diasomnia backstory. He's obviously a capable individual, he's a powerful knight and everything, so we'll put I would trust with life. We'll set aside the fact that the Fae, for the most part, are not fond of humans and stuff like that. They're known to be, for the most part, not fond of humans, so we'll not count that part, and we'll just, again, speak on the setting of, you know, you're close enough with these people that they would theoretically go to defend you if it was needed. But here we have fuck his name, Bauer, yeah. It's Crocodile Knight Fae. We would trust him. He's the second in command to, I assume he's kind of like second in command to Lilia when he's like a general at the time, so, or at least any somewhat of a similar ranking to Lilia. But yeah, we would trust him. He's, you know, capable in combat, seems good enough as an individual and whatnot, so I feel like we could trust him. You know, by virtue of who they're meant to be, we have Ernesto and Gino, who are meant to be the Foulfellow and Gideon from Pinocchio of Twisted-Wonderland. So objectively looking at them like that, we might move them just because, again, their things change throughout the story of the event, but just to start things off, we'll put them in wouldn't trust. Rolo, we can put, I don't know if I want to do these by rank or just by order of appearance, because more often than not I just do by order of appearance in the categorization for these categories. I don't go by, like, no, the first guy or no first person is the one who I would put the most trust in or the least trust in, depending on the category, you know? So for now, we'll just go in order of appearance. Rolo is, I don't know if to say a mixed bag. I mean, he's very much a complex character. We see his story in the Glorious Masquerade event, so he has a very good story, very deep story, deep and meaningful as far as his character goes. He is the one thing that could make me be okay with Claude Frollo, and that's a tough thing to do because I, as has been stated before on this channel a couple times throughout some of the videos, I have a very, very deep hatred of Claude Frollo from The Hunchback of Notre Dame. But I do like Rolo as a character, but just for the sake of how I would not trust him, just by virtue of what he does. I mean, not that I have magic, or at least not that. If I do, it hasn't manifested, to my knowledge. But again, he's trying to get rid of magic. His whole thing is doing it by any means necessary. So for that reason, we wouldn't trust. And we have Skelly from the first Nightmare Before Christmas iteration event. He is technically the villain of the event, depending on how you choose to categorize it. He is technically the antagonist. He has his reasons. I wouldn't say I don't trust him. He's capable. if I remember right, his signature magic is being able to swap the signature spells of other people. Good skill to have. Good to be able to get a mastery of if you can. A little shifty, but I feel like I would trust him. Maybe put him in unsure for now. And then we have some characters that we don't have a lot of background info on. We have Eric something, I forgot the full name, the last name, but he is Ville's dad, and we see him in the Tapis Rouge event, or as it's known in the American localization of it, Ville's Red Carpet Cadets. We don't know much about him. He seems to be a caring dad in regards to Ville. I feel like I'd trust him. Dilla Spade, we see her in the Rabbit Fest event. She is Deuce's mom. Would trust, yeah. We have Marja. I guess her last name would be Felmir, most likely. We see her in the Harvest and Sledathon event. She is Apple's grandmother. She's known to be in that in-universe anime that Idia likes, and she seems to be a skilled outdoors person. If I were striking a snowstorm or something, now I'd put my trust in. Oop. I would trust her. Yep. I don't recall her name. Yeah, offhand, I don't recall her name. She is Jamil's sister. We see her in the Firelit Sky over the Firelit Sky over the Sands, or just Firelit Sky over the Scalding Sands. No, I think it's just Firelit Sky over the Sands event. The Silk Adorned event where we get Malleus, Cater, Jamil, some of the other characters that are involved. But we see her in that event. We don't get a whole lot of information about her, but she seems like a good enough character, so I feel like I'd put her in would trust, but not with my life, just because we don't know all that much about her. But anyway, now we are going to try and potentially shift around these categories a bit. We put more people than I thought to in trust, so in full trust. Let's see, in full trust we have, in no particular order, just kind of by order of appearance, not how much trust I have in them as their characters. We have Riddle, Trey, Deuce, Leona, Jack, Azul, Jamil, Ville, Rook, Ortho, Malleus, Lilia, Silver, Cruel, Vargas, Sam, Malianor, the Dawn Knight, Bauer, Dilla, and Marja. In Would Trust, but not with my life, which we're kind of using just because it's the only thing that I would kind of assume you trust the person for that's not with your life. No, I put trust them with a secret, but I feel like I don't know what else would apply to that. I'm sure there's other stuff, but just for the kind of mental aspect of it for me to be able to categorize them, I thought of it as who I would trust with a secret. Ooh, if that's the case, I might want to move some of these around. But anyway, in here we have Cater, Ruggy, Apple, Idia, Train, Chenya. I want to say Nigel. I don't know why I'm thinking Nigel again. Ville's dad, whose name I'm pretty sure is Eric, and Jamil's sister, whose name I do not recall. In Unsure, we have Ace, Jade, Floyd, Sebek, and Skelly? I don't know why I always forget if it's Skelly or Scully. Anyway, and then in Wouldn't Trust, or in more so in the sense of I feel like you could who they are as a character, just by what we know of them as how they are as a character, the characters that are based off of, or if I feel like their loyalty could be swayed a little too easily, potentially, we put them in wouldn't trust. So in that category, we have Kaleem, Grim, Crowley, Nage, Cheka, that one guy from book 7, I don't remember his name, Ernesto and Gino, and Rolo. Now, just for the sake of to see if we might swap someone out, just because I want to kind of get rid of the unsure category, at least. So let's see. He loves Halloween. I love Halloween. That moves him. Sebek. He's shown to be he values honor. Outside of also valuing Malleus. He's a strong individual, capable, relatively trusted by Riddle, if not a little chastised in regards to the club stuff that we see throughout some of the stories and stuff and vignettes. I feel like I would trust him. Floyd. Jade and Floyd are the dangerous ones here. They're especially Floyd. He's a little too. He's predictably unpredictable, if we can say that. You don't know what he's gonna do next, but you do know it'll potentially be something wild the moment he does something once he's bored. But I would trust that he is a capable enough individual to protect me. Jade, kind of same thinking as Jamil and Floyd. They are shown to be a bit of a shady character, but overall they're trustworthy. So we'll put them here. And as we get rid of the unsure category, I feel like having Ace in Would Trust But Not With My Life is probably a good point. We'll delete this one. Alright, so there we have it, you guys. We have all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 44? That might not have been right, but I counted 44 characters. But anyway, there we have it for now, you guys. We have all 44 characters categorized into the 3 following categories based on how much trust I would put into them. At the top, we have Would Trust With My Life. In the middle, we have Would Trust But Not With My Life. For context, we just use kind of trusting them with a secret. And in the bottom in red, we have Wouldn't Trust. But anyway, that's going to be it for this one, you guys. So, as always, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to share and like the videos, subscribe to the channels, all that good shit. Truly helps out, is appreciated. And just that quick reminder in regards to the tier list, specifically more so for Twisted-Wonderland stuff. With this one, we were kind of starting to scrape the bottom of the barrel as far as things that are immediately available on the tier maker website without just going into a tier list and changing up all the categories and stuff and just going with like a basic tier list that has pretty much all characters and changing it up those via categories, which is probably what we're going to start doing soon. So if there is a specific tier list you want me to make with different categories of stuff like that, the next one that I'm planning most likely is going to be an ABO one. So for those of you that know like Omegaverse stuff, we'll probably look forward to that one. But yeah, if there's any specific tier list you might want to see made with these or other characters, and then of course we'll go into other games once we start branching out more. So for that, you'll have to look forward to a slightly, or at least potentially find some diverging stuff. We'll try to do Genshin, Honkai Star Rail, Zenless Zone Zero, Pokemon probably, maybe other Disney properties, anime ones, Wuthering Waves. Those are kind of the immediate games I can think of. Fire Emblem for sure, because that's another IP and game franchise that I'm pretty big on. So, sorry about the kind of extra long bit, but I'll put this in the description for the videos, that if you guys want to see any specific tier list that you would want to recommend be made and featured to the channel, we'll include you in the comments and stuff like that, but feel free to drop a comment on that. Might try and make a page for something like this, just so, for suggesting tier lists and stuff like that, but that'll come later on. But anyway, that's gonna be it for this one, you guys. So as always, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to share and like the videos, subscribe to the channels, all that good shit. Truly helps out and is appreciated. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Signing off. Peace out.